Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Sureshnie and you are in the middle of hashtag Study Sesh, brought to you by Boston Broadcast. I'm going to put you into my headspace so you understand why this particular topic I'm so excited about. Fantasy. That was the album or the track that I was listening to when I was in matric by Mariah Carey, and I firmly believe that entire Daydream album is what got me through matric. My mom was so convinced that I was never going to get through matric because all I ever do was listen to music, especially when it came to studying, and I was one of those night owls, but I felt that music was my calming space, and that was my style of learning, and that really made sense. Which brings me to today's topic with our host, academic and educator, Dr. Laura Fisher. We are talking about mastering your learning style, because when you master your different learning style, you know your unique learning style. It's essential because ultimately it will help you optimize your learning and help you retain the information more effectively. So let's try and understand how you learn best, which can significantly enhance your learning outcomes and your overall academic success. Doc, tell me all about my effective learning style. What does it even mean?
Well, I don't know if we can continue this conversation because you listen to Mariah Carey and I can't stand her.
See, we are so unique and different, right? So we have different learning styles. I am obsessed with her.
I definitely would have failed matric if I'd listened to that.
I'm going to send you some recommendations, okay? She's got some very positive tracks. But tell me what your learning style is versus mine.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think what is really important here, and this maybe goes back actually to something we spoke about in the last session, and that was actually creating your kind of sacred study space. Okay. And maybe Mariah Carey helped you to create that sacred study space, because the traditional kind of learning styles wouldn't necessarily include like the background stuff that you need to learn. It speaks about certain learning styles that your brain kind of best retains knowledge through, and it's a neural pathway development that happens, and it causes you to retain knowledge better. So there are different learning styles. Primarily, there are visual learning styles, there are auditory learning styles, there are reading and writing learning styles, there are kinesthetic learning styles, and the collaborative learning styles. So that's just the overview, and I'll go into each one of those now. So what you strike me is that there might be something auditory there, but a traditional auditory learner would be wanting to listen to the content that they were learning rather than having something in the background supporting the learning. So you've added in a bit of a dynamic there that's interesting, but we all have our preferences. And for me, I definitely am a reading/writing learner, a very neurotypical learner in terms of needing to write copious notes. I love to read. The more I read, the more I write, the more I understand. But I'm also a mother and I have 3 children, and each one of them have a very different learning style. So I'm very, very well aware that, especially as there's been more exploration of neurodiversity, and that not everyone learns well in a classroom environment, reading, writing, and listening, that there are these other learning styles that have come into play.
So, Doc, you mentioned in your conversation about the different styles and the key features, but I wanted to unpack a little bit more about those key features that stand out. We're talking about visual learners, auditory learners, reading and writing learners, and then there's something called a kinesthetic learners. Now, I've never heard of this term before, so I'm really excited. Can you unpack? Let's start off first. What is a visual learner?
Okay, so visual learners traditionally learn really well from visual aids like diagrams, charts, and videos. Or you'll find them in class and they color code the chapters, or they use the same colors to delineate different themes. So without that visual aid, they will struggle to learn as well as they would learn with the visual aid. So that's in essence what a visual learner is. An auditory learner obviously prefers to hear information in order to understand it. And I think that this realm of auditory learning has really grown exponentially with things like Audible books and podcasts. You know, it's just opened up a massive world for auditory learners, because auditory learners benefit from listening and they retain information from listening. So I told you I have a few children. I've got 3 sons. And one of them is a complete auditory learner.
Wow.
Anything he listens to, he can repeat back to you. But do not give him the textbook and tell him to go and read it. He will be in la la land, imagining something completely different than anything that's written on the page. But but his imagination is captured when he hears it. And when you were describing getting through matric and your love for Mariah Carey, and you believe that she got you through, she captured you.
Yeah.
She got you into a bubble where you could just absorb information. And what's really interesting, particularly for auditory learners, is they're often able to take a lot more stimuli than a reading and writing learner. So because a reading and writing learner needs to be able to focus and concentrate, so they generally will need a quieter space, whereas an auditory learner isn't actually that bothered by someone speaking over here and over there and, in 10 different places, because they're zoned in to what the most important thing is, and they can manage the peripheral sounds and still learn. So I think auditory learning is incredible, but obviously it's just got then its challenges when it comes to visual subjects like geometry, where you need to explain concepts either verbally or visually. So the reading and writing learners, I've spoken about myself being one of those. I played the piano growing up, and I think it built a whole lot of neural pathways that as long as I'm typing, whatever I type, it will stay in my head. And whatever I write, it will stay in my head. So I benefit tremendously from reading textbooks, taking notes, writing essays, summarizing content. It might be almost perceived as like a more like neurotypical way of learning, although in actual fact you can be a very neurodivergent learner and still prefer reading and writing. Interestingly, in the Japanese culture, education is so emphasizes reading and writing that students are expected to read textbooks and take detailed notes. And unfortunately, that culture is actually fails the learners with other learning styles. And it's actually a really big challenge for students in the Japanese culture generally. So the kinesthetic learner, I've got one of these in my house as well. He needs to be up and about and busy all the time. He learns through doing something physically with his hands, hands-on experience. So they really thrive with projects and experiments and interactive learning opportunities. And it's quite interesting how our traditional classrooms are really, really not set up for this style of learning. And there is a big move towards providing space for this style of learner, but they're a very unique style of learner. And they're the style of learner that can't listen for long periods of time. They need to get up and do. And, some of you may know or have heard of Tony Robbins. He's a motivational speaker and life coach, and he's very energetic and interactive in his style of presenting information. And he always incorporates physical movements
Yeah.
and hands-on activities in his workshops and his seminars. And that is because he's a typical kinesthetic learner. So kinesthetics is how we move in our bodies. So we're learning as the information is moving through our bodies. So those are the kind of general learning styles. And some of us may have a mix of all of them. Others may be very dominant in one and very poor or really struggle in another. Again, we're all unique and we love uniqueness. The world would not be what it is if we were not unique as individuals. Just even looking at your career path and my career path,
Yeah.
you need a different set of skills to what I need. And our learning styles have actually probably played into, to some extent, the careers that we've ended up selecting for ourselves.
Absolutely. I ended in music because I loved music so much, and that's why I ended up in working in media and working in the media, which is the radio and the TV space. So for me, that all just came together just because I loved it and I consumed it so much. So here we are. Laura, I'm finding it absolutely fascinating because as you were chatting about the different learning styles, I was trying to put myself into a box and figure out what is my dominant learning style. I'm also a note taker. Maybe it's studying journalism, you're forced to take a lot of notes, but just generally, when I listen to somebody in a lecture, I'm always writing notes, and people go, "Don't write. You need to listen." But I enjoy listening and writing, and that's the thing that works for me. And I think from the little breakdowns, I identify as the dominant, having those particular dominant learning styles, whether it's auditory and I think visual is okay, but for me, auditory is important as well as writing notes. Is there an exercise that students can do to figure out what their learning style is? Because I'm learning this now at my age, but I'd like to figure out, is there something that we could do as students to figure out like, okay,
Yeah,
this is my vibe. This is where I land strongly.
yeah. I think most of us sort of intuit what our learning styles are along the way. But as you say, we're quite along the path compared to maybe a 17, 18-year-old coming into their first year of studies who may not have identified their learning style. So there are actually a number of kind of self-assessment type quizzes and activities that can help you to identify your learning style. But what I would really encourage is that a journal article recently published in the Educational Psychology Journal found that when you align your learning to your learning style, your comprehension and retention of information absolutely skyrockets. So if you don't know what your learning style is, I would encourage you to really delve a little bit more deeply into that.
Now, I think also another interesting learning style, which we may not have realized until COVID happened, was collaboration. And I mean, right now we're collaborating. You're on Zoom, I'm on Zoom, and we're together discussing and unpacking something. And there's a student out there who's actually consuming this media on YouTube. And so we're collaborating, and that's also an important style. How did you think that impact with COVID-19 created that space for collaborative learning?
Yeah, I think that for the first time there was an acknowledgement, okay, we all have perhaps one or two dominant learning styles, and we bring those to the table. But we also bring something more to the table. We bring an opportunity to collaborate together. And I think that with the shift from with the shift to remote learning and online learning, students initially realized what they had actually always gained from being in class. And that was that they were in class and they were collaborating with peers. And then they were on their own, trying to still learn and struggling to learn. So COVID-19 was really a catalyst for a technology revolution in the sphere of us acknowledging collaborative learning as part of a set of learning styles. There are people who just prefer to learn alone. There will always be those people. But for the majority of us, I would say that the research on collaborative learning shows that it leads to higher academic achievement, increased critical thinking skills. improved communication and social skills, and a greater sense of engagement and motivation among students. So collaborative learning has been found not only to be a learning style in and of itself, but it actually promotes a deeper understanding of the material and helps students to develop a more positive attitude towards learning. And, this is becoming more and more exciting every day.
Yeah.
Because with AI in education now, education is being absolutely revolutionized. And even at Boston, we're excited to announce the new addition to teaching and learning in terms of the integration of our own AI tutor into Cole Campus, although it's not running across all of our modules on Cole Campus currently. But during the semester, you'll get to experience this AI, because what AI is able to do is it's able to bring collaboration when maybe you don't have someone to collaborate with. It engages with you via questions. It allows you to respond, to engage, to ask more, or to request it to simplify something or personalize an example to help the student to understand a concept more. So the collaboration with AI is really augmenting our intelligence, because it's giving us an opportunity not just to collaborate with each other, but it's also giving us an opportunity to collaborate more deeply at a level that we would have never dreamt of until, the launch of ChatGPT at the beginning of 2023. So the landscape of education is evolving very fast, and collaborative learning is really, really becoming a critical element. And I think it intersects all of the learning styles. So we bring our distinct or dominant or our little conglomerate, a set of learning styles to the table, and then we collaborate. Now we've got something that's really, really amazing, and that's really going to take us well beyond what we could have ever imagined ourselves doing in terms of excelling academically and beyond.
Oh, I'm so excited. And this is it, folks. Boston is ahead of the next frontier. So, Doc, in light of what you're saying, it could actually be so crucial that students advocate for their learning preferences and needs if it is such an essential aspect of ensuring a successful educational experience.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that we are in the age of needing to advocate. I think parents more than ever,
Yeah.
and carers of children who have maybe not the neurotypical style of learning really need to be their children's advocates. And that is because learning needs and preferences is about sharing with educators that there are preferred learning styles and that there need to be accommodations made for these learning styles. So by expressing needs and concerns openly with your educators, students can work together with the educators to find solutions that will support their learning throughout the learning process. Finding additional resources to enhance their educational experience. This could involve leveraging what Boston already offers in terms of academic support services, or finding online tutorial groups or study groups. By actively engaging these resources, students are able to further strengthen their skills and knowledge and confidence in their academic success. Because I think that everyone has potential. I just think that the system has left people often feeling like they don't have the potential they do actually have within them.
Yeah.
And so I want to encourage that students actively voice to their Boston educators their needs. If they're not fully understanding topics, if they need further clarification. By actively engaging the learning process, students deepen their understanding of the course material. And by advocating for their learning needs and preferences, students will have a more successful academic journey. This really is what empowerment's about. And this is why Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon we have to transform society. Because if we can speak up for ourselves and for what we need to learn, we can be transformed. And I think that that is very, very critical. So for me, it is absolutely imperative that students feel they have a voice, they know Boston cares, and we want to listen to the needs, and we want to provide personalized learning journeys for students who have needs that may sit outside kind of the normative realm of what we're currently providing. We invite you, come and speak to us. Your educators are available. Come and get us on board with you to get you to reach your dreams.
Absolutely. And I think if you think about it, these study sessions that we're hosting with Boston Broadcast, they're actually a valuable resource because we're getting the extra in case you hadn't had time to understand your learning style, or you were worried about how do I practice some of these things, or how do I time manage effectively. This is what Study Sesh is all about. It's unlocking these important nuggets that you can get from your lectures right here on YouTube, and of course in all of our links that are available. So in closing, with hashtag Study Sesh and of course Dr. Laura Fisher, Doc, can you provide a few practical tips that you can leave with us?
Yeah, just to reiterate what we've really spoken about, take time to understand your learning style. Visual, auditory, reading, writing, kinesthetic, and collaborative. If you don't know what it is, or you feel you're a little bit of a mishmash of everything, take time and think about it. Because when you understand your style, you will do better academically. As I said, visual learners prefer to see, auditory learners prefer to hear, reading and writing learners prefer to read and write, kinesthetic learners prefer to move and do projects and project work, and then collaboration is the name of the game in this new landscape of education. And also just to be aware that there's multiple styles that all of us probably actually can access. And if we are wanting to access styles that are not our natural style, we actually can learn these styles. So we can actually go online and get resources as to how to become more hands-on, how to take more input, how to block out the noise, how to really leverage and fulfill the potential that you have within yourself academically. And then I think just what we were speaking about in a few minutes ago in terms of the importance of self-advocacy. Students must advocate for their learning preferences and needs to optimize their educational experience. And open communication with your educators and active engagement in the learning process is absolutely crucial. So students, I want to just say to you, we believe in you. Embrace your unique learning style. Advocate for yourself. We want to see you ultimately empowered in your educational journey and succeeding academically and beyond.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Fisher. What a empowering way to end this session. Absolutely inspiring. I really wish I had you as one of my lecturers when I was studying. And I think also just helping students understand that it's going to be okay. And now that we're more aware of all these different unique styles, we can actually tap into what makes us unique and special, and we can play to our strengths. Thank you so much for being part of this edition of hashtag Study Sesh. Guys, we'll catch up with you soon. We've got more with Dr. Laura Fisher coming up next.